Hey guys and gals, back with another GM builds guide. As you can see here, the first one is going to be a Titan build. I should mention this week some stuff that people should be doing and should be caring about is the upcoming GM will be giving the Swarm machine gun. I would recommend getting rangefinder and target lock, or majority perks should be target lock, whatever you feel comfortable as your first perk. Also, Spyro the Watcher is the new dungeon for this week. Artifice farming, if you want to do so. The final boss and the first encounter are really easy to farm, especially the first encounter. I know you can farm that in 3 minutes if you just avoid all the ads and just go for the zones or go for the little wires, whatever they're called these days. I don't do the dungeon. But back to the builds. First build is the Arc Titan build. This is the one that I used to rock all the time until Strand was released. As you can see, these are the mods that I use. These are everything I use on the build. I don't focus into strength. That isn't a priority for me. With Arc on a Titan, my priority is getting my resilience and getting my discipline up. As you can see, Ashes to Assets, Heavy Ammo Scout, Heavy Ammo Finder, Discipline mod here. That was my bad. I meant to see Firepower, Fastball, and Bolstering Detonation. When this comes all together, pretty much Bolstering Detonation and Firepower, you're getting Orbs and Bolstering Detonation. All that's going to do for you, which is going to benefit you in the long run, is just get your ability back faster. Heart of Immortal Slot, you get 5 seconds of a damage, but not a damage bonus, a recharge bonus. Especially using Thruster, it will give you back your grenade and your melee faster. I normally use all 3 resistance here. I don't know why I don't have that. I think I'm just messing around with some of my builds. Otherwise, Absolution and Innovation, those are 2 mods you want to see. Void Surge mod, if you're going to use Monarch. If you use Monarch, I'd say use Void Surge mod. It also increases the damage to that bow, and that bow is one of the best weapons in the game. I would 100% recommend it. Bomber and Distribution. I changed one of my mods for Powerful Attraction, automatically collect orbs of power when you activate your class ability, which is going to be a frequent thing with this build. Simple as that. You can change Distribution to something else if you don't like that perk. Otherwise, here's what I rock on the subclass. I rock Thruster, Thunderclap, Pulsinate, Knockout, Touch of Thunder, Spark of Ions, Spark of Resistance, Spark of Shock, Spark of Magnitude. These are what you want to be running. You want to be running Lightning Strikes twice, Shock and Awe, and then you want to be running Amped Up, Thunderous Retort, and Electrical Armor, and you also want to be having Counter Charge. This is what I would recommend for Arc builds if you're going to rock an Arc Titan. You can also run something like a Cures of the Falling Star, but be mindful you're not going to get your grenades back in that as fast. And it doesn't really matter because it is Arc Surge anyway, so you get a 25% damage buff. The other thing that you should check out is the classic Strand build. Everyone's pretty much seen me have this build already. I'm going to put it up for you again because I like to show it off. I am a bit like that. I personally, Reaper here, don't worry about that mod. I'm going to actually change that to Powerful Attraction. I use Font of Wisdom so I can get my super back faster, as well as Kinetic Siphon and Heavy Ammo Finder. I'm normally using something like Malfeasance or something like a Wish Ender in general. Wish Ender I would not use for this GM only because there's no anti-barriers. Otherwise, heavy-handed, momentum transfer, and whatever heavy loader I normally put there. I don't normally use this. You can change that for something else. Double resistance currently with concussive dampener. I was doing some activities and I messed around with the build a little, so I'm going to have to change it. Otherwise, Better Already. I use Better Already, Void Surge, and Void Scavenger. I'm going to take off the Scavenger and change that to a Absolution mod. So personally, Void abilities, Solar abilities, and Arc on Titan, I don't use Better Already. The reason why is Void, I use a Devour build. I have Devour Aspect unlocked for that. Titan, Knockout. And for Solar, Healing Nades. If I'm not using Healing Nades, I'll use Better Already. Double Bomber, and this is probably going to be turned to a Distribution mod in general. So obviously with my Berserker, this is what I use on it. I use Danger's Lash, Into the Fray, Shackles, Frenzy, and Rally. Do not use Towering Barricade if you're using a Buoyant Leap. 100% do not recommend it. you want to be using Rally for this. Threat Generation, Continuity, Threat of Mine, and Transmutation mutation. Blade Fury is the only super we have. On the on your artifact, this is what you want to be rocking: Cosmic Needle, Strand Soldier, Improved Unraveling. And a lot of people will disagree with me, but Squad Goals is very effective. When you perform a finisher, it will grant Woven Mail to nearby allies as long as you're using Stasis. Or sub, you know what I mean, Strand. These are really the only two builds that you want to be rocking for this GM. I would not rock anything else for this GM on a Titan personally. If you're going to rock something like Solar, then good luck to you, but Arc and Strand are the priority builds for this week. Otherwise, I'll move on the Warlock. So this is the major build that I want to show off a bit later as well in a shorter version at the very end of this GM. It's going to be something new I'm doing, so I hope people are excited. This will benefit players in the long run of Destiny 2. So, hear me out. This is the build. Cento Mask. I've got Divinity for the Trace Rifle, and obviously this is just going to be for your Unstop. But that's not important. This is where the build relies on. It relies on using Trace Rifles. Obviously, Kinetic Siphon because I'm using a kinetic weapon. You want to be using Heavy Ammo Finder and Heavy Ammo Scout. Special Ammo Scout is good, but Heavy Ammo Scout will be more effective for you. Fireball or Firepower because obviously I'm using grenades. I have Momentum Transfer because this build also does rely on getting Radiant real quick and easily. I have all 3 Resistance. Then I have Insulation, Kinetic Surge, so my kinetic weapon does more damage, which is probably what you want in this GM if you're using a build like mine. And Innovation. Over here, you can pretty much change one of these two around. I would say change Innovation around for something like Absolution or better already, personally. Otherwise, I use Distribution, Bomber, and a Double Bomber mod. On my solar abilities or my solar subclass, I use Icarus Dash, Touch of Flame. You can change Icarus Dash to Heat Rises if you want. I wouldn't really care. It doesn't really bother me what you guys use. That's your call. I'm using Solar Grenade, Incinerator Snap, and Healing Rift. And then you have Ember of Torches, Ember of Singeing, Ember of Searing, and Ember of Benevolence. Benevolence and Torches are a combination. So your melee attack is going to get you Radiant and nearby allies Radiant if you hit them. That is also why we use Incinerator Snap, because it has a shorter cooldown time, and I don't really use a high melee based build. I always go into discipline based builds. Obviously, on the artifact, there isn't going to be a lot that helps you with these type of builds. As you can see, doesn't really authorize anything solar required basically this season, which kind of sucks. So I can't really tell you what to use here. Another build is going to be basically a previous build that I showed you. Phoenix Protocol based, obviously. Same weapon, same design. But heavy hand, obviously heavy ammo finder. Hands-on is going to be in change. I wouldn't recommend using hands-on. Void Siphon, I'm going to change over anyway to something else. But this would be more or less an Ashes to Assets. That probably wouldn't exist at all. Then I'm obviously using... This was just a mess around with builds as well. I'm using Momentum Transfer. I'll probably change that over to a Bolstering Destination, as well as this one here, Bolstering Detonation. And I would probably put a Reloader on. Whatever element weapon for your heavy, I would recommend putting that for your Reloader. And then obviously the triple mods here, I would recommend using all the subclass elements, Solar, Arc, and Void. I'm using currently a Surge mod. I would recommend using something like Absolution again, because that actually goes across all 3 of your abilities. I'm using Insulation, and I've just got a Scavenger mod there. Reaper, obviously again you can change that. That works best with Void builds. And a Double Bomber. Obviously nothing's going to help you in the seasonal artifacts, but with Dawnblade itself, I use Incinerator Snap, Healing Nade, Touch of Flame, Icarus Dash, Ember of Solon, so my Radiant and my Restoration effects have increased duration, which is very effective on this build. Ember of Resolve, that's going to actually change into something else. I just realized what it does, and I don't really fix this build up too often. Ember of Sinning, and Ember of Benevolence. In all honesty, you could change this to something like a super base one, Or you can do something like this, reviving an ally grants you this, and restoration and all that shit. I would recommend just using something that just works entirely for you. Not something that doesn't work, something that does work. A lot of people probably don't do that themselves, but this is just the way I play and all that type of shit. I'm not going to go into ridiculous amounts of detail and stuff because I know a lot of people don't really use similar builds to mine. Probably I would say use something like Ember or Wonder. The base of this one is to get your super back as fast as possible. And obviously, as you can see, like my design is to have high stats in specific focused areas to do that. I always focus my armor and my stats in a specific area because that's just where I want to do or want to be. And obviously, we all have different aspects of the game or styles we play. These are just my type of styles I play. I like to play high statted based in one area or two areas of the game. Otherwise, the only other build I'm going to recommend is going to be the build that I'm running this week, and that's just going to be changed over to the spare rations again. It's just La Monarch, spare rations, obviously don't really worry about these two, but as Fallen Sunstar Arc build, I recommend using this over any of the other current Arc builds, especially just the way it just feels amazing. Ashes to assets, Void Siphon, and Heavy Ammo. You want a Void Siphon because of the bow that you're using or whatever you're using. Fastball, Bolstering Destination, and Firepower. Triple Surge mods here to protect yourself. Innovation, Absolution, and I'm using a Void Surge. Just here, Double Bomber. This will probably be changed over again to the previous one I had on my Titan. I can't remember the mod, I'm just too lazy to. Same time, you want to be rocking Shock and Awe, Lightning Strikes Twice, Thunderous Retort, Amped Up, Counter Charge, Electric Armor. And the other thing you want to be running on your subclass is you want to have a Static Mind, your Arc Soul, Pulse Nade, Ball Lightning, Healing Rift, Spark of Ions, Spark of Volts, Spark of Magnitude, Spark of Shock. Otherwise, that's all the Warlock builds. I'll show off the Hunter builds, and then I'm going to show off a quick little sneak peek of a Harmony build, which is something that I'm currently working on. The Hunter builds. So this is the first build that I've got for you, boys and girls. It's actually an Aeon Strand build that I was designing. This would work really well, depending on how you play. So I'm using a double kinetic siphon because my goal for this build is to use Malfeasance with it. As well as heavy-handed, I'm using a weapon loader for my heavy and double momentum transfer, so I can just use that little other melee quickly. Obviously, arc resist, I'm going to use a triple resist here. Obviously, I don't show that in the build, but arc, solar, void, invigoration, absolution, and a scav. I use bomber, proximity ward, and reaper. Reaper can probably be changed again to something else more effective. I use proximity ward. Only reason I use proximity ward is it gives me an overshield doing finishers. As some people have probably seen, you can get killed mid finisher. With this one as well, aspects you want to be running is Cosmic Needle, Strand Soldier, and Improved Unraveling. The other thing to this build is these are the aspects you want to be using: Widow Silk, Ensnaring Slam, Shackle Grenade, obviously Threaded Spike there, Maskman Dodge. You don't really need to worry about your dodge. I would say just keep Maskman Dodge on. It is the better one to have for this build. And then I use Thread of Warning so I can get Woven Mail picking up an orb, Thread Generation, Thread of Binding, and Thread of Mind. And obviously I use Silk Strike. The next build is my favorite personally. I love rocking this build during GMs, and that is actually the Void version of this build, where I pretty much use, I believe in the build I use suppression grenades, but obviously it's the same design. It's designed to use a hand cannon with a special weapon combo, heavy-handed, kinetic siphons, arc loader, momentum transfer. This actually works best because I don't run high strength based builds, so I can get my strength back, my strength and visibility back faster. Arc loader or whatever type of heavy you're rocking, with double resistance here, as well as, oh well, you know what I mean, the 3 resistance mods that I always run. And then I use Absolution, Scavenger mod, and Invigoration. Bomber, Proximity Ward. Difference is, because we are using Void, you want to use Reaper, and you'll see why in a moment. What the aspects or the artifact mods you should be running for this build is Supernova, Protection Beast, Breach, and onto the Breach. They're what you want to be running for this GM build, as well as you want to be running suppression grenade for the overloads. You want to also be running a snare bomb, as well as gambler's dodge. For this build, you will need gambler's dodge. The other aspects for this is vanishing step and trapper's ambush. I would highly recommend trappers over the other one any day of the week for these type of builds. And then you want to have echo of persistence, echo of dilation, echo of starvation, and echo of obscurity. This is what I run, and this is where I was saying you need Reaper. Picking up a Void Breach or an Orb grants you Devourer. The final build is an Arc build. So there are two ways to go about this. I personally would say use Lucky Pants. I don't have the mods that I currently would rock on this build. As you can see, I only recently got this pair. But keeping it simple, I'll just explain what to use down here. Probably use Absolution, Invigoration, and then a Kinetic Surge mod. With Lucky Pants, they increase your hand cannon damage, so use something like 100% use Malfeasance with this build. Otherwise, this mod here would be a grenade-based mod, so I would use Ashes to Assets with Heavy Ammo Finder and a Resilience there. I would use my Heavy type loader as well as a double bolstering detonation right here, personally speaking, as well as my resistance mods, all three here. I've already explained what to use on the boots. Bomber and distribution with time dilation. Time dilation can be changed out for another mod that is probably better. 100% would say use something that either gives you recovery, or the other thing that I would really recommend on this build would be the same thing on the Titan with the orbs of power. Otherwise, what you want to be rocking on this build is Shock and Awe, Lightning Strike Twice, Electric Armor, Countercharge, Amped Up, and Thunderous Retort. And on my super, I'm using Gathering the Storm, so keep using Gathering the Storm. Making sure to use Gambler's Dodge still, Combination Blow, Pulse Nade, Flow State, Lethal Current. You want to be running Spark of Shock, Spark of Feedback, Spark of Resistance, and Spark of Ions. I hope you enjoyed these builds. That is the builds for this week. I should also mention the Harmony builds. I will explain that when I do my 1000th GM run clear this week and put up a video on that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys like and subscribe.